Good morning. Good morning. Hopefully we'll get the spam comments started early this morning. It is 9 o'clock. I did make it on time. I know many of you were concerned that I wasn't going to make it, but no, there was no one concerned because, let's be honest, nobody's watching. So is that a slight at you? No. You know, you're busy. This is New Year's Eve. This is the last day of 2021. And to me, it couldn't come soon enough. I've had a terrible year in business. I don't know if my personal life has been terrible. It's been fine. But good riddance. Good riddance. Seriously. What we're going to do today is a little different than what we normally do. We normally have a little set format for the live stream. Today we do have a plan, but I don't know how it's going to go. I have long wanted to do a show where I just air my grievances. And, you know, we had, I don't know if you all saw, if you ever watched Seinfeld, but there was the holiday Festivus, and the one day is the airing of the grievances. And I always thought that was hilarious. I want to get these out because I want peace. I want to let these things go. Some of these things on the list are a little bit old, but I've talked about them in the past sometimes. But they're just things that I just want to let go. If you look at this, if this is the only video that you ever see, the only live stream you ever see from me, you're probably going to think I'm a terrible person. I don't think I'm a terrible person, but when you put all the things together that have happened to me in my real estate career together, as far as the negatives, it kind of explains who I am and why I think the way I do. I've had some things happen, and you say, well, I don't ever want to do a deal with you then, because look at what could happen. Now remember, we have a bias. We all, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but we all have a negativity bias. And that is, we tend to focus on the negative over the positive. So as an example, I sold a house in September or October, $30,000 over asking. Sellers couldn't be happier. Buyers couldn't be happier. Everybody's happy. Everything went well. Okay. But I won't think about that one. Represented a buyer on a property in St. Louis City. Loved the house. They had their first Christmas there. They're just so happy. It's a young couple, and everything's going well for them, and couldn't be happier. Nothing bad happened on that deal either. Will I remember it like the deals that didn't go well, or the slights that I feel like I've taken in my career? No, I'll remember the ones that are bad. And you may say, well, that's bad thinking. I don't know. I think that for me, the focus on the negative is not. It's like to make sure I teach myself at least that lesson. If there's something I can learn from it so that it doesn't happen again. Now, in real estate, one of the things you learn or in your career, is that nothing's ever the same thing twice, really. You're always going to have these new problems that pop up, and you're always going to have to be a problem solver, I would say. And by solving the problem, that doesn't mean hope it goes away, which I've seen real estate agents do. But yeah, you'll probably think I'm a negative. You'll think I'm a negative person. I don't think I'm negative. I think that I'm very, very optimistic, and I think that my optimism throughout my life has, caused me to be where I'm at. Which I don't know if that's a good thing. I'm eternally optimistic. Sorry, I had to crack my neck. Are there good things going into 2022? Well, let me just say this. I came into 2021 and it looked like I had over 6 figures in gross commission income. In the start of the new year, and on my board, I have that. And believe it or not, if I look at this board, I have a board that has, buyers, sellers, and, where they're at in the process. And as I look at the board, there's people that have been on there for 2 years. So you can't base your income on reliably on the board. And that's where I think a lot of agents that are like smaller agents like myself, where we really, I mean, it's hard. Okay. If you can't predict revenue, that means if you can't predict income, you can't predict what you're going to spend. And anything you decide to spend your money on, if you're wrong, you're out of business. I mean, that's the problem. And I wanted to couch that in one of the things that my dad learned when he worked for large corporations, S&P 500 companies, I mean, big companies, as a comptroller and an auditor, and he worked in a number of different capacities in the accounting field. And then he went and started his own business, and it was the thing that got him was, you know, when you talk about you lose $1 million on a project, okay? Well, this is no big deal, you know, because your income is like, you know, 40 million or 100 million or more. I mean, $1 million is just nothing statistically. When you're in business for yourself and your revenues are, you know, your income is say $50,000 for the year, okay, and your expenses are like $40,000 a year, that's not a good place to be. Every dollar counts. And I've carried that on in my business. We're very, very conservative. Why? Because I don't ever want to work in an office for someone else in my life. I'm done. I had a number of experiences working for others that was less than ideal. Never really made the money that I was promised. Never really fit in those organizations. Always felt I gave too much at the end of the day. I gave too much and I got back too little. So I never want it to happen again, and it's not going to happen. But there's sacrifices. First off, you're like, hey, John, real estate agents make all this money all the time. Aren't you just throwing cash everywhere? Well, that's what they say. That's what the marketing says. We all make all this money. And you can make good money, but you have to have a lot of transactions. And how are you going to get those transactions? Is it going to be because you're a good person? Is it going to be because you're in a big family? Is it because you can figure out a way to advertise that you get a return on your investment that's acceptable, that allows you to scale? I mean, how are you going to do it? Because if you're not doing transactions, you're not going to make it in this business. So, and I have to save a tremendous amount of money. Cash-wise, I save a tremendous amount of cash because I can go a long time without income. Then all of a sudden I'll hit like 4 sales in a row and it'll just be ridiculous. But you have to be in the business and in the game long enough to get those things. One of the things that hurt me this year, that I'm just going to give you what I know. Okay, this is stuff that you'll probably never hear people talk about. Real estate is, they say it's cyclical, but it's not cyclical in the way you think it is, or in the way I know it to be. So when is the worst time to be a real estate agent? Now. You say, what do you mean? Why would now? I mean, there's all these deals happening. Yes, but it's the worst time to be a real estate agent now because everyone's running in to be a real estate agent. And I mean, for the last 100 years, if you could list a house with your family member or with a stranger, you're going to list your house with a family member unless you hate them. And so what happens is everybody, real estate's hot, we'll all get in the market and we'll all make all this money. So everybody and their brother jumps in and gets their license. Okay. Well, that makes the competition for listings ridiculous. You say, well, shouldn't that lower the price for listings, the commission for listings? It doesn't lower the price for commissions because what ends up happening is there's so much competition. You have to charge a certain amount or you're not going to be able to be in business. You say, well, that's bunk. Well, that's fine. I'm not going to convince you anyway. So when is the best time to be in business is when people are leaving the business. Now, do I openly root for people to leave the real estate business? No. But I know that right now, with the competition as high as it is, I'm not going to get nearly what I was getting before. I mean, 2020 was awesome for me. Awesome. 2021, not awesome. Let me ask you this. I mean, it's just in how we're wired. I left 2020 with the belief that 2022 was going to be fantastic for me. Why? Well, as an optimist, I tend to think things are always going to get better. Is it delusional? I don't know. Yeah, you got to live somehow. You need to, in your life, if it's never happened, you need to have a great year in your career, and then the next year have a terrible year in your career, and then see if you can handle it. So let's just do this in the case of like a normal worker. Let's say 1 year you work at your company and you had a great year and you make $65,000, okay? And let's say the next year you're just as excited to make that $65,000, but you come home at the end of the year with $2,000. But you didn't change the amount of work you did. How would you feel? Well, I'm not going to use the number 65 and 2 for how I did this year, but I'm telling you, it will humble you when you do the exact same thing year after year, and 1 year you have a bunch to show for it, and the next year you don't have anything to show for it. Very humbling, and very hard. And just as you know, like I said, I'm trying to dispose as much knowledge as I can. Real estate agents in St. Louis, traditionally, not good. January is not a good month. February is not a good month. March is getting better towards the end. But the buyers and the sellers that are really, motivated come out of the woodwork starting in March, last week of March. 30-day close means you're not gonna get your first check probably last week of April. January, February, March, April. So you're in your 4th month of the year before you kind of have an idea of how things are going to go. And certainly with me, that's the way this year went. I had actually had some things carry over from 2020. So January, I think I closed like 3 deals, which is unheard of for me and for in St. Louis and at that time of the year. And then just not great. Not great. I had people, I've showed houses all year long. I didn't have a serious group of buyers for quite some time. By serious, I mean somebody that was committed to buying a house. You have these looky-loos and stuff like that. Not anything against them, but they may never buy a house. You're just basically a tour guide. Should I fire them? No. What kind of person fires people? Their clients. It's just stupid. Not going to do it. But anyway, yeah. Year's been tough. And I've changed my marketing. I've changed my marketing because of some of the grievances that I have that I'm going to air today. Was that wrong to do that? Was it? We don't know. I just think that in 2021, if you're not in front, one of the problems that you have as a real estate agent is, let's say you want to be part of a club. Well, you're not going to be part of a club if they meet every Tuesday night and you have to show houses every Tuesday night. It's not going to work. I'm saying as a single agent. Let's say you want to go to church and you want to build all this business from church. Well, good luck going to church and then going to an open house on Sunday afternoon. You can, and I'm sure people do, but it's all, real estate is all the time. I will get texts and calls right now during my live stream. It's just never stops. So as you know, this is like the 33rd live stream in a row. And I don't really have a good idea of content as far as like how much content takes up an appropriate amount of time. I was watching. I do a podcast, and we talk about our goals. Is it my goal to be the best live streamer in YouTube history? No. And you say, good thing, because you're terrible. That hurts, but okay. Is your thing to be the best podcaster ever? No. Well, shouldn't you strive to be the best at something? I guess, but it's just not where I'm at. The best real estate related podcast, even. I don't know. I like with you guys. I don't like to talk about real estate all the time. I'm a real estate agent, and I like to talk about real estate, but I am more than just my career, I think, and so are you. So my goals aren't too high, but I'd like to have a lively chat. I'd like to have, some sort of editing ability. But anyway, podcast, not doing badly. It's actually doing really well. The videos on YouTube, not so much. I don't know why that is, but we'll just keep at it. I don't know what my podcast episode is going to be about today, but anyway, like I said, 33. I still don't know exactly how to do the time. One of the better podcasts that came out and higher ranking podcasts that came out in St. Louis, in the United States, is a fellow that there's no, it's one topic after the other topic. People seem to respond to that. Should I change my delivery to do that? Probably, but I'm not going to, because I speak and I think in roundabout ways. And I think that the best way to do my podcast, the best way to do my live stream would be to listen to it passively. If you're working on your car, listen. If you're reading your tweets, listen. Come on in the chat and then we'll talk about stuff, but you're never going to get me, I don't think, in a way that's like this, and this. Now, I do write a list because I don't think that way. I need to get a drink. I'm sorry. Here's my Deerwood Realty Mug. These aren't available at the shop yet. I got to do so much on the shop. I got a hat. I was going to wear my hat, and I need a hoodie. But by the time I get the hoodie made and ordered and delivered, it's going to be, can I do this? See, now you got the Deerwood Realty cup. It's going to be non-hoodie weather, short sleeve shirt weather. I don't know. So we're going to go over the grievances. You may disagree with me, but this is my life. I lived it. You may say, you're a terrible person because you think this way. I just walk a mile in my shoes. That's all. If you still think that, I can't help you. Let's get to it. So here's what it's going to be. Some of these are things that stick in my mind. Should I have done things differently? What could I have done differently? How big of a jerk was that person? The usual stuff. And you may not think of it as being a jerk. You may think that person was totally right. And that's fine. I don't think I'm asking for your sympathy. I'm doing this as a personal thing. I need to get it out of my head. And I've not been able to get it out of my head in years, but I figured I'd try something. Maybe a public shaming. I'm shaming myself. It's public shaming. Let's get started. Like I said, I have the list. The first airing of grievances. So I listed a house in the Lindbergh School District. Lindbergh School District in St. Louis has been really hot for a long time. It was one of my first deals with my new brokerage, the one I had started, my own brokerage. I had worked at other places previous and done some deals, but this was my first one. And very nice lady, and very strange house. It would be a modern style, mid-century modern style. Strange house in that it had an addition to it that was almost the entire size of the home, and it was well done. The addition was well done. The garage was well done. Pricing, It had a galley kitchen. I don't know if you know what a galley kitchen is, but people don't really want those. And the master bedroom didn't have a shower. It had a toilet. So it was a half bath. And it was only one shower. And it was a split level. There's a lot of things against it, but it had a beautiful lot. And so I listed the house, and the lady said, hey, there's a spot in the back where the ground, it sinks. Is it a sinkhole? No, it just sinks over time. Have you had anybody look at it? Yes. And so we had all this information about this, and we put it in the disclosures. The ground sinks over in this spot. This is the case, and this is true throughout St. Louis, Missouri. I don't know about anywhere else in the country, but in St. Louis there are these sinkholes. They're not really sinkholes. The ground sinks. You know, you think of a sinkhole, you think of like Florida, where the whole thing just. Anyway, it's not that. So we list this house. We say clearly on the disclosures, the ground sinks in the back corner. First weekend, we get an offer. We accept the offer. It was asking price offer. We were very happy. Now, she told me the seller told me, hey, my neighbor is a real estate agent, and ever since she found out that I'm listing my house for sale, she's been pissed off. And to me, just how I work, like I'm not sure that people are going to use me as a real. So my neighbor next door, I don't think they're going to use me. They keep to themselves, and they don't particularly like me. They're not very friendly anymore. Sometimes you may have a family member in real estate. So people around me don't necessarily always use me. Does it hurt? A little bit, but I mean, can we be a little bit professional, I guess is where I would be. I would just assume that with everyone else. So this lady apparently didn't get the memo. And so I listed the house, and like I said, it was under contract. The listing, or the buyer's agent said, hey, with the house, we had a contract. Hey, can the parents come over to see the house? Now this is after the contract's been accepted, before the inspection period. And as I try to be a nice person, I said, sure, they can come over. No problem. So parents come over. I get a call, maybe within an hour of when the listing is supposed to be over. The other agent's screaming at me, there's a sinkhole. You didn't tell us there's a sinkhole, and you know there's a sinkhole, and we're out. We're out. So what is this about? What is this about? Well, the neighbor told us that, you're hiding a sinkhole, and this is where it is, and it's in her yard and everything else. I'm like, the hell? So it turns out this neighbor that's the real estate agent was waiting for someone to come over to the house so she could tell about this sinkhole that didn't really exist. I mean, the ground sinks in the spot. Every 5 years you have to put some dirt there. And she's sitting there, and she killed the deal. Now my seller was absolutely livid. She's like, can you file a complaint with the board? I could, but that was the same house where another real estate agent went through the house without even asking permission. Didn't even have a confirmed showing, just shows up and just goes in with his Supra, and I'm not supposed to know this happens. And so that guy I actually thought highly of until he did that. Now I don't like him. But what would the complaint do? I mean, the lady doesn't do any business anyway. So why would I file it? I mean, what good would it do? And so we didn't file a complaint, but it set us back probably. Well, there were 3 other offers, and it was not a fast time yet. The prices were still pretty low. I think maybe 2016. So anyway, but I learned a lot of things with that. One, if you do have a listing that takes a long time, you need to update your sellers weekly, at least minimum. And so I've always said to people on Fridays, we will, discuss how many showings we've had, what we should do, should we keep the price as it is, lower the price based on the showings? What do we need to do to get this house sold? It's always worked in the past. I've gotten to the point where I like to sell houses as quick as I can, not because I care about informing sellers, as much as why beat around the bush, right? Why not just sell the house? You know what it's going to sell for. You should, if you're a real estate agent, put it out there, sell it, and move on. I mean, what is the joy of having, like, as you guys know, we're on the live streams. We'll normally go through a certain part of town, a certain city in the country, and go over their listings, and you'll see a listing that's been on the market for 500 days. Yesterday was one in Indianapolis. Well, we don't need that. John doesn't need that. Talking about myself in the third person freaks people out sometimes. I don't typically do it, but I just did. So that was that. Yeah. So my grievance there is that agent's a jerk, and I haven't forgotten it. Next one is, I have some really good friends, and during the summers we would work out in the front yard, and this friend of mine, we would work on stuff, and his parents would come over, and we would have a fun time and talk and everything, and it was great. Well, they were going to buy a house across the street. They were going to sell their house. They decided to sell it flat fee. So they didn't use me as their agent. They're going to sell it flat fee on the MLS. So like they pay $500 and it shows up on the MLS, and then they're going to represent themselves as the sellers. Well, once they signed flat fee, I couldn't talk to them because that would be me going behind the sign. It'd be unprofessional for me to say, hey, you should list your house with me. I have to respect their agreement. In the meantime, one of the family members had problems, medical problems, and so there was genuine concern there that things weren't good. So I didn't get involved, but I knew that the listing was expiring soon. I said, hey man, are you ready to sell this thing? Let's get it sold. This is ridiculous. You've priced it way out of what you can get for it. So then they used somebody else that they didn't know, had nothing to do with them. What the hell? Was I angry about it? Yes. Did I give him an evil eye for a while? Yes. I got over it. You can't let kind of like your business and your friendships get tarnished. You have to show that you're not happy about it, but at the same time, things happen. Did it make me, oh man. There were some other things that happened through that deal, like that I would have thought that you would use me as your agent because of the things that I'd done in the past for you. But it didn't work out that way. So that was, what did I learn from that one? You never can tell with people. And even if you're just angry as can be, keep it to yourself. I say keep it to myself, but I'm on the live stream. But I mean, keep it civil. There's no point in, why would I burn bridges with my friends when over a deal that didn't happen? Okay, so then the next one is a business thing. So I've been in business long enough now that people are actually retiring around me, and people are going out of business for whatever reason. So like, hey, you have a good plumber? No, I don't. Not right now. My plumber retired. Not great. But I used to work with a title company, and there's this argument that HUD says, or the Housing Administration says, oh, you should search for title company as a consumer because they can save you money. Terrible advice. Terrible advice. If your real estate agent knows a good title company, use the good title company. Why does your agent care? Well, typically, like, I know what they charge, so I try to get you the best price and the best value. You say, well, are they paying for like Cardinals tickets for you? No, because I don't go to the Cardinals games. Are they giving you anything of benefit? No, because that's against the rules. So I don't get anything from the title company. But anyway, I used this title company, and we had a great relationship. They were good people. But I had this complicated deal where there were 6 people on. We were buying. 6 people needed to be on the purchase agreement. Some of those people were divorced, and so their ex-wives or ex-husbands had to sign. Okay. So getting signatures was a bear. Okay. So I got all the signatures. I got everything done. Title company, we close. Everything's good. And by the way, some of these people, when they are divorced, don't really want to speak to their ex-wives. You know, they're kind of done with it. So 2 months later, I get this call from the title company, a lady, and she's like, "Hey, we need to get a signature from this guy. He's not responding. Do you know if there's something we can do?" And I'm like, "The hell are you doing? Why do you need to talk to that guy?" "Oh, we lost a document." "What do you mean you lost a document? You can't lose documents. You're a title company. You closed on the deal." It makes me look unprofessional when you can't get your stuff together for a form that you had. Why would I want to be? Why would I? And then I said that, and then I got an email from the other lady that said, "Oh, well, that was too much. Shame on you for doing that. She's working hard, and you did that." So I said, "You know what? Great, we're done." We had a business relationship for 2 or 3 years. If we have a business relationship and we're not able to, discuss things that are stupid that you do, like you're always right and everything's perfect, then I have no need for you, because there's going to be times in my life where I'll make a mistake. It happens a lot. Okay. And if we can't, if there's no give and take, we're done. I ended up going to a different title company, and I like that title company better. It's a little different in how they work, but it's perfect. I was audited by the state this year as one of the great things that happened to me this year. Like, I really want to spend hours going over my files that lead to no revenue, but does lead to me keeping my license, so I better do it. And the auditor went through the closing statements. I look at the closing statements for the money, like make sure that the money's in the right spots. But he told me, and I believe him, that a lot of times they'll write like, "This check goes to this person," and then they don't put the who that goes to. So they'll just say $600 off to so-and-so. But then they'll leave the so-and-so. So it'll just say $600 here, 600. And so that'll get you flagged on your audit. So I didn't get flagged on my audit. Title company I use is great. Highly recommend them if you're in St. Louis. And title companies are a little bit interesting in that they're just like real estate agencies. They're just like lenders. A company can have 100 lenders, okay? Maybe 1 or 2 of them are decent. The rest of them aren't worth your time. Same thing with title companies. They can have 100 different closing agents. Got to find the one that gets the job done. Same thing with real estate agents. I can tell you, look at the large brokerages in St. Louis, okay? It's an 80-20 rule, and it's not even that. Normally there's one top producer at every office, and the rest of the people are terrible. Okay, so if you have 100 agents, 99 of them are terrible in that office. And you don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe me. I know it because I live it. And you say, well, live truth isn't real. I understand. I don't understand the live truth thing 100% either, but my experience tells me that this is the case. I've seen it, and that's what I'm going with. So anyway, title company got booted, and the moral of that one is when I bring you business and you do something wrong and we're not allowed to talk about it because you're going to get offended, then we can't do business together anymore. I have no problem leaving a title company for that reason. It's not that I'm not asking. Understand, I wasn't saying, "Hey, can you commit fraud? Can you commit fraud and like do a weird document here or file some sort of form that isn't real?" No. I wasn't asking for anything weird. I was just saying, you control the documents. I gave you the document. You closed with this document. Now you don't have it. And now you're making me look bad by making this guy have to find his ex-wife and sign a document. For what? The deal's already closed. You've already filed everything with the county. It's an auditing thing for you. All right. Next one. This goes into like inconveniences, and I think we're doing good on the time. I hope you don't think less of me right now. If you do, I'm sorry. Because I know you're going to watch this on a replay. I know that you don't watch it live, which is fine. Ready? Okay, so a guy out of Chicago. I'm friends with the lady and we are friends. Okay. She said, hey, my relative is moving in from Chicago, wants to buy a house with a pool. Well, that's cool. So I don't know when the guy's coming. I don't know anything about it. And I'm fixing a deck. I'm working outside. It's 100 degrees. I'm working on a deck. I get a call. Hey, can you show this house in an hour? This guy, this man from Chicago. You're my friend. For you, yeah, I'll do it. For you, yes, I'll do it. I won't normally, I don't know this person. I don't know if, I suspect they're pre-approved, but I'm going to have to, take a shower, get dressed, go do this showing. I'm going to lose like many hours on fixing the deck. And obviously there's no guarantee of sale. Most buyers don't buy the first property they see. Happy to introduce myself at this time, but this is kind of putting me out. So I go and I show the house. The guy doesn't even get out of his car. His wife and his kid and my friend walk through the house. They want a house with a pool. This house doesn't even have a pool. You want to buy this house? No, don't want to buy the house. Couldn't write an offer anyway, didn't have pre-approval. So then I never hear from him again. A couple weeks later, I found out that he bought a house So then I don't want to bother the guy because he's in Chicago. And I've heard that he has health problems, so he's in the hospital. So I don't want to call the guy in the hospital just to follow up. And this is who I am. I just don't want to be that salesy person. But anyway, I call. He's like, hey, can I call you back? Sure. Never calls me back. Ends up buying a house as a dual agent. He just saw a house online, bought it, So that made me mad. It was $7,000 commission, just gone. And why would you buy a house from the listing agent when you know me? I would have negotiated a much better deal for you. Anyway, let's keep going. This is the one that hurt this year. I listed a house for a lady and we did an excellent job. I say that because we did. And so what happened was she called me and she's like, hey, my dad's really ill. Can you take a look at the house? I want to sell it. I said, sure. She said, my sister has already had a real estate agent go through, but I'm the power of attorney and I make all the decisions. So don't worry about it. I don't care about that. I said, okay, well, so we all know that estate planning and estate sales are bad in real estate. There's a lot of different emotions besides just selling the house. So I go over there and the fellow is laying in his bed in the dining room because his bedroom is on the second floor and they can't get to the second floor. He can't go up the stairs. He's delirious. The wife is out in the front porch and it's just a bad situation. Some sister shows up, the same sister that had called the other agent to go through. This sister doesn't work, doesn't have a job, pretty much just a lump of disgust. Not a human being I want to be involved with anyway. Walk through the house. They asked me some questions. I was like, yeah, we can sell it. We can sell it as is. We can also get it permitted and we can sell it and we can make even more money, but whatever you guys want to do, it's a great house. How much do you think it'll sell for? I don't know. When are we going to sell the house? And unless I know when we're going to sell the house, I have no idea what the price is because the price always changes. Okay. So then I get my friend and my former client's like, okay, I understand. About 4 months later, I get a call from her and she said, okay, my parents have moved. And she's taking care of her parents and she's working. And this other sister and a number of the other ones are either retired or not really great people anyway, kind of wastes of space. So she's like, can you come through the house now and see what we need to do? I said, okay. So I go in there and I said, you should probably have an estate sale and get rid of some of this stuff. So I give him the number for the guy that I know that does estate sales pretty well. He goes through there. He says, there's not much here that we can sell. There's not much that anybody's going to want. You're better off just throwing it out. So they get a dumpster and they clean everything out, or they're in the process of cleaning it. They tell me, hey, let's go over to the house. Would you come over and take a look again? So I go over and take a look. And of course, the sister's there again. And I'd had coffee with her too before. This one sister, again, who doesn't have a job, has all the time in the world to do whatever she wants to. And so we go through the house, and she's like, I want, she's like, what do you think it'll sell for? I said, I don't know. And then she's like, okay. But then I brought a stager in there to see, like, hey, can we keep a few things so that we can make it look good to sell? My stager's like, no, this house is terrible. It should be sold as is. So I said, okay. So then I get a call from my previous seller, and she said they want $250,000 for the house, listed for $250,000. I said, why not $300,000? Why not $200,000? I mean, where did this number come from? I mean, what is this based on? And go back and forth. And I said, I'll list it for whatever you want. But I mean, I just don't understand, like, are we listing it this week? What's going on? A couple days later pass. And the lady's very fair with me. She's like, my sister is just being a jerk, and I'm trying to take care of my parents, and there's all these, things to deal with. And I'm like, I understand. She said, all of a sudden she said, hey, can we just have my sister list this house and be done with it? So that's basically, John, I'm not using you as an agent. Okay. That's another $6,000 or $7,000 deal. Not going to use you as an agent. My sister wins. I've got too much to deal with my parents. And I said, I'm not going to fight. Can you imagine? I mean, as a human being, do you think I'm going to fight for a listing when this woman's in distress, and really distress? I mean, real genuine, is a real human being going through a real problem. Do you think I'm going to jump in and say, oh, no, let's fight this. I'm going to come after, I want the listing. I mean, I wanted the listing, but if it's going to cause family strife that I get the listing over this other sister that has an agent that doesn't do anything all day. No. So I let it go. And I felt like that was the best thing to do. Plus I figured someday down the road, maybe my original seller would want to buy something or let me sell her place, down the road. Well, what turned out happening is one of her family members ended up getting a real estate license, one of her kids' friends or something. So I'll never talk to her again. And I mean, I'd love to talk to her, but I mean, she'll never call for a real estate deal. So that's out. So doing the right thing, in my opinion, put me out $6,000 to $7,000. So there's $12,000 right there that you can see that I lost. Okay. Now, these are things that happened to me that make no sense. So I used to have 3 agents. One of the agents was a great lady, but she wasn't very good with paperwork. She also wasn't very good with sales. And she wasn't good with keeping her license. But she ended up one time having a buyer that wanted to buy a place out in Washington, Missouri, which is 50 minutes to the west of St. Louis County, I think would be fair. So she says, can you help me with this? So I helped her with all the paperwork, got it all done, went through inspections, everything's great, went through financing, she had financing, everything's good. At the last minute, she decides she doesn't want to buy the house. And rather than going through with the sale, she just stops. Now, I represent her. Is it a terrible thing to do to the seller to just stop in a transaction? Absolutely. Do I like what my buyer did? No, because everyone spent all their time now putting this deal together, and now the buyer blows it because they just decide they don't want to live there. And the lady is, the buyer herself is just a piece of work. I don't know where my agent found her, but she's just not great as a human being. So anyway, what ends up happening is the sellers are mad at my brokerage. The seller's agent's mad at my brokerage. The buyer ghosts us. Like, she just totally disappears. The deal doesn't close, and then the sellers decide they're going to sue the buyer because they didn't close on time. Now, she put down $1,000 in escrow, so you can sue all you want to, but this isn't going to go well. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but there's no money in this deal. So they're all mad. Everybody's mad. And it made my brokerage look bad because this person didn't follow through with their commitment. And it was based on a whim. And the way she did it irritates me. That's not how I like to do business. And so that was very, very frustrating. and it stuck with me. How can you go through the process of buying a home and then when everything's done, decide, oh, I'm not going to buy it? It just doesn't make any sense. It would be different if like you have cold feet, like say you put in an offer and it was accepted. And it'd be different if like you were under duress or you were being pushed to buy a house. Like say I was being really salesy and say, you have to buy this house tomorrow. That's one thing. But for you to like honestly go through all the process and there's been no salesmanship on my part, there's been no forcing or hand holding, and then you do that. It's just ridiculous. So that's why I like to always work with my buyers very closely and kind of get a sense for like, would they be happy here? Would they be sad here? You know, what can we do to make the situation the best? Like, how can we have a happy buyer? Do you think I want an unhappy buyer? No. So that was terrible. We're going to go long, and that's just how I'm going to solve the live stream problem in the content. So I got a call New Year's Day 2020. There was a woman in my farm that had won the contest. We have a coffee card contest. She'd won it a few times. She'd entered. We were talking. We were cordial. Calls me on New Year's Day. Hey, can I see a house? Well, I knew this lady because we had talked. So I said, sure. Now it's New Year's Day. I don't really want to show a house on New Year's Day, but again, if Google Business calls me today or tomorrow, I'll answer the phone. I don't care. If it says spam on it, I'm not going to answer it. But anyway, go show this house. She lives in a decent neighborhood. She's looking at a house that's not in a decent neighborhood in Afton. I said, okay. So we go there. We go in the house, walk through. She says, this house isn't 1,800 square feet. I said, no, it's not. Probably about 800 to 900 square feet. She goes, but the Zillow listing says it's 1,800 square feet. I said, yeah. Zillow takes the living area. They take total living area. So they take every single part of the house they possibly can to make it look bigger than it really is. She was not happy with that answer. She was very nice to me. She's like, thank you for showing this house today on a holiday. And she was a former real estate agent. She said, I was a real estate agent in Nebraska. And, this is how we did it there. I'm going to sell my house contingent on the purchase of another house. It's like, okay. Well, she never called me again. She ends up listing her house with someone else and moving to Illinois. Now, all she would have had to do, like, what did I do wrong? Like, I went out of my way to help this woman get into this house on a holiday. And the thanks I get is, I guess it was somebody else and never talked to me again. Odd. I've talked about this in a podcast before, the next one. I got sued in small claims court. Yes. Like I said, I've got another video about this, but I just want to go over it once. So we were selling a house. Contract calls for the inspection. This guy that's representing the buyers is a brand new agent working for a team, and the team I know it's like turn and burn. So they'll tell new agents, you can make all this money if you go with us. Then they're like, then they give them leads, and then the leads don't pan out, but then they tell them that it's their problem because they didn't close the lead, and it's a terrible place to be. Wouldn't want to work there ever. But put an offer to buy the house. There's the inspection period. The inspection period, there was a new septic system put in when my buyers bought the house. This was a year later, and they're saying that the septic system needs to be replaced. And there was like the fireplace was a problem, and one other thing. So we said, it was a very hot market. We said, here's $1,000. This is what we'll give you, and we'll fix these two things. And so after the inspection period and during the negotiation period, they start sending over plumbers and all these random people to just show up at the house, which is totally not under contract, totally not part of the contract. And they come up with a plumber that had never been to the property, but looked at a report, said that it was going to cost $16,000 to repair this septic tank. We said, we're not repairing the septic tank for $16,000, and we're out of the inspection period. We're done. Buyer didn't like that answer. Buyer says, hey, okay, so we're out of contract. So I said, write a contract, and they write a contract and they have the same thing that they want this fixed. And I said, well, we're not going to fix it. And septic systems in St. Louis, the salesman and the job itself is very, very sketchy. If you can find an honest septic tank company in St. Louis, good for you. So they sued. They sued because they had to pay their mortgage lender an application fee because they were traumatized. They were trying to sell their house at the same time, which is why you should never try and sell a house and buy a house at the same time. That never works. And so it's during the virus, the pandemic, the early stages of the pandemic. And so they go to small claims court. And even though they're asking like $6,000, which is more than the small claims court allows, somehow my buyer gets served paperwork. We hire an attorney because you can't sue based on this. It's just not going to work. And not as a lawyer, just as just a normal person. It's just a bad precedent. So we go to court. They call the woman up. She's got like a binder full of information. The judge is like, okay, so what's the problem? And they say, we didn't get this house based on the inspection. We couldn't come in agreement. And he's like, okay, you're done. She's like, but what about this? It's a safety concern. She says it's a safety concern. Like, no, doesn't matter. In fact, you should be paying them because they had to put their house back on the market and they've had to wait until you've gone through this deal. So she left. But anyway, then she emailed me and told me I was unethical. Before the lawsuit, she emailed my company and said I was unethical, even though she was the one that was pulling all this stuff. She was the vice president at a large organization in St. Louis, but I suspect that, she was hired for reasons other than her abilities, because I say abilities, maybe she's a nice person, but her competency as far as actually being good at her job, I suspect is limited. And just a bad thing. She also said she would never buy a house from us ever again, which, as you guys know, I don't list that many homes. So it's not the chances of her actually finding a home that I've listed that she can actually reject that would be in her price range, not going to happen. So I was like, okay. But anyway, you get this. So this woman can write reviews about me, and my brokerage. This woman can do all these things, but she's the one suing me, and the judge throws away her suit in less than 5 minutes. That's the world we live in. This one just happened to me this summer. It just drove me nuts. So I listed and sold a house for this woman, and we did a great deal. What happened was she had another agent in the property, and they were using comps from the wrong school district and also the wrong style home, the wrong subdivision. So that comp came in like $50,000 to $60,000 below what the house should sell for. I noticed it right away. It was in the Lindbergh School District, and they had it in like Fox. So, massive difference in school districts. So I sold the house, and I did a great job. The woman was buying a forever home, and so, I didn't expect to see her again. But I sent my mailer, and I tried to stay in touch. She was not very receptive, but I did. Anyway, 5 years later, I get a call. She's like, hey, I'm going to list my house for sale. I'm moving to South Carolina. I said, okay, cool. She said, by the way, I've already sold my house once, but it fell through. I didn't use an agent. And I've called an agent, and she's already been through the house. But would you come out and take a look? So, yeah, I came out. Now, understand, I'm the third person now on the list, even though I'd done the best job selling her house, previously. So I go and I look, and she wants a stupid price for the house. And I'm like, if you're going to want that price for the house, going to be dicey. These are the things you need to do. I told her, here's my fee, and she agreed. And I was like, that's great. It's great to have former clients come back and use me again. It really shows what a good job I'm doing when somebody wants to use me again. Next day, I get a phone call. She's like, we're going to go in a different direction. I said, really? Why? She said, well, the other agent dropped her fee below yours overnight. And I agreed. So, oh, really? Really? So you're going to take that deal where she dropped her. What do you think what do you think is going to happen when you're negotiating for your house, the price for your house? How do you think that she's going to fold like a paper napkin? So anyway, lost that deal. So what I learned there is it doesn't really matter how good of a job you did. Nothing matters. There's no loyalty in the business. And I say that she already tried to sell the house to a private, through a private sale that blew up because she's getting hosed. And so that's just the way it is. I mean, are all my clients like that? No. But this was definitely a wake-up call. Like, it's not going to work that you're going to think that people are going to remember you after a couple of years and still want to do business with you. That's not the world we live in now. It may be the world we lived in 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but now everything is instant. What did you do for me yesterday? So, it still makes me mad, but that was a $10,000 commission. I'm upset with the spam bots today, have not been spamming my feed, which is depressing. Okay. We've only got a couple more. There was this time when I got a call from a lady that said she wanted to buy a house that I had listed, and she wanted me to sell her house, which I don't believe. Ever. That never happens. But she did end up buying a house that I had listed. So I was the dual agent on the deal. And that comes into play later. When I ended up selling her house, the other agent was an idiot. She was asking for repairs that weren't necessary, and they were holding up the deal. I really couldn't stand the other agent on that deal. But anyway, we got the deal done. So the house I had listed was as is. They sold their house. It wasn't as is. They got a good price. And the next week I listed another house similar to the house I had just gotten under contract. And I didn't know the people very well. And the house was kind of worn. So it was like they needed to move. They needed to buy another place. They were moving out of state. And so it was well worn. And like I said, I didn't know them very well. And so we listed it as is. And when I had listed, I had heard there was a neighbor interested in buying it. And I said, I said to my seller, look, if she wants to buy it, give her my number and we'll go from there. Well, she called and she said she wanted to see it. Now, I had not seen the property. I mean, I didn't know enough about the property. And I didn't want this woman to get into a bad situation like where it was a dual agency. Now, you see, I just did a dual agency a month before, but this one I felt uncomfortable with because I knew the buyers on the other one and I knew the sellers, and everyone was just great. But this one, I didn't know the sellers very well, and they had bought the house previously, and it was a for sale by owner, and there wasn't a lot of negotiation, and it was dicey. I don't feel like they got a very good deal at the time. And they're like, the systems were old and stuff like that. And so here's this woman calling me, and she's like, hey, can I see the house? And I said, do you have another agent? And she's like, I got a lady that I was working with like a year ago, but I wouldn't say I'm working with an agent. So I said, why don't you call her and see if she'll show the house? Well, she happened to be in the neighborhood. She showed the house, and there were two offers. They ended up getting the deal. And so they got the deal. And so they bought that house, and then the agent sold their house. So that was I made about $6,000 on the deal. But had I represented this lady, I would have made over $18,000. So I don't have any idea what I would have done differently on that one, but it's always bugged me. Trying to have some sort of ethics cost me big time. I didn't want to represent a house, for that person and then have her be in a bad situation. I wasn't worried about the other house being in a bad situation because It was a good house. I mean, and I knew the buyers, I knew the sellers, everything was good. So that was one that's always bugged me, and it's kind of in my head. I have another deal going on right now. I talked about it a little bit the other day. It's the last thing I'd say is, like, believe you me, I do believe in, like, friends. Okay. And while I don't have millions of friends, I have friends, and I'm always happy to do things for them. And one of those things is if they're interested in maybe buying a house, but they're not committed to it, I'll set up a search in my MLS and I'll send them stuff. And if something comes their way that makes sense, I'll show it because it's a friend of mine, and I don't have a problem with that. I know them. It's not like some random person who's not qualified, where I could face harm for showing a house. I recently, maybe within the past year, I saw a house that was available that was within the criteria. There'd been a couple times where this lady had been looking for houses, but they would go pending because she looks on Zillow and stuff, and they'd go pending before she ever got a chance to see it because she didn't know the showing instructions or anything. And so, I was like, hey, I'll help you out. If anything, you see anything, I'm happy to schedule a showing. So I called her. I said, hey, we texted. Here's a house that seems to fit your criteria. I'm happy to show it to you. If you want a private showing, that's fine. And they have an open house. So she texted me back. She said, thanks. Her and her husband go to the open house. The house sells. It's like $400,000. A little dated. Well, the husband now every day starts driving by the neighborhood. I don't know why, but it's weird. And eventually this person that lives like next door or a couple doors down flags him and says, hey, are you interested in buying a house? And he says, yeah, I wanted to buy this house. And he's like, well, my house is for sale. It's going to be coming up for sale. How much do you want for it? I want $500,000 for it. So $150,000 more than the house that sold. Okay. So, but you can't use an agent. Okay. Now what's happening right now? Well, what's happening is this husband and this wife are going to get royally screwed. But then she said, hey, I saw her a little while back. She said, hey, here's what's going on. And my husband just loves this house, and this is what we're going to do. So that was about $8,000 commission gone. So you can see in 1 year, I'm probably out like $35,000, $40,000 in commission, which is a big number for a small brokerage like myself. Now, what's going to happen on this deal? Am I going to sit there and am I going to yell at the people for what they did? No, because if people do dumb things, what are you going to do? They're adults. They chose to make a decision. Let them live with it. So those are my grievances. Maybe they don't seem like that much. Do I feel better after telling you all of them? Kind of do. Thank you for sitting through this with me. I think it's been cathartic. That's the right word. But thank you. I'm going to look up cathartic because I got it open here. Cleansing the bowels, promoting evacuations by school. No. Pertaining to the purgative principle of senna as cathartic acid. Inducing catharsis, purgative. Well, what would be that? What would be catharsis? To cleanse, to purge. Yeah, I mean, there's a cleansing of my soul. Anyway, that's what I got for you today. I didn't even put it up on the thing so you could see it. Thank you for watching. I know you guys typically watch afterwards. Like you're like lurkers, and you don't watch until like 3 days later. Thank you. I'll take it. Be nice to see you on a stream sometime if the time works out in chat. But thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.